Hello and welcome to Freshly Squeezed, a sister show to our small but beautiful XR podcast series, Squeezing the Juice. On Freshly Squeezed, I'll be joined on each episode by one of the Juice Immersive team to discuss a topical issue, news story or trend from the world of extended reality. Now, my resident guest may be familiar to you already if you're a client of ours, and if not, then this is the perfect opportunity to get to know them. I'm excited to be joined in the studio today by our XR strategy lead, Ian Ravenscroft. Ian, welcome to Freshly Squeezed.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. I'm excited to do this. So before I introduce the subject of our conversation today, as this is our first episode of Freshly Squeezed, perhaps I can just ask you, Ian, to give us a brief introduction to your life in XR.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first introduction to XR was back in sort of 2015 time. I was working at the BBC and went down to the Natural History Unit and experienced an amazing XR VR experience with a blue whale. And since then, I've been really interested in producing new work in that space. Gone on to produce VR with YouTube, Google for BBC Three, moved into working in VR narratives with Beachcomber for BFI and Wasted for Story Futures. And I've continued to advise and guide on XR projects up until joining Juice about a year ago. And now I've been working with commercial and enterprise use cases of XR technologies.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, it's really great sort of précis of your XR credentials and your experience and time in the industry. And yeah, just speaking from Juice's perspective, it's been brilliant to have you join the team here and bring that breadth of knowledge to our work. So as I say, Freshly Squeezed is all about using as a jumping off point, really, a current news story or trend or point for discussion. And today's is perhaps unsurprisingly the much acclaimed recent launch at Meta Connect of Orion. In their words, Meta's first true augmented reality glasses. But if we can kind of open the chat up a bit more broadly to the concept of AR glasses more generally, something that's been in the ether for a long time, and perhaps we can discuss that and the impact of that on the future of enterprise and the sorts of clients that we work with at Juice. But first of all, what's your sort of initial reaction been to the news? Maybe now that the noise has died down a little bit.
Yeah, I think my initial reaction is it's a logical next step. I think we've seen wearables kind of really develop over the last few years. Going all the way back to kind of Google Glass, and then you had Apple Watch, and these wearables that have initially when they launch, people are quite skeptical, but actually over time, as they improve and the use cases become more clear, they start to get adopted. So I think for Meta, who've really been pushing the kind of hardware space in terms of VR headsets, it makes sense that on a consumer level, they're kind of driving towards getting people to wear this stuff every day, use their technologies, integrate their AI that they're bringing, and we're getting to the point where the form factor is something that you want to wear. It's something that you want to use in a daily part of your life, part of your work. So I can really see how, as these things get smaller, they're more kind of attractive to wear. People are going to start using them and finding use cases for them. So not surprised. I'm quite glad that the technology is kind of moving forward. I think there are still lots of kinks to work out, and that will come over time. But yeah, for me, it's interesting to see that there's several players in this kind of wearable space now who are really pushing the technology from a hardware perspective, and I think it'll be up to the development community to come up with some brilliant ideas of how to use them.
Do you think, Ian, that we've talked about this a bit ourselves, that when we hear a new product launch like this, that there is often, if not always, that focus on consumer and the future looking like people wearing these pieces of technology every day, all day, potentially in the future, still feels a long way off, I think, if we're all speaking honestly. So, how do we then kind of translate that into perhaps some of the nearer term positive impact that these technologies might be able to have on enterprise clients?
Yeah, I think so. The thing for a commercial use case is that you need something to work now, today, and and if not, have a kind of clear roadmap to get to a place where you're using technology in an everyday workplace environment. You're using it for your commercial needs. So The Orion kit particularly is interesting because it's a dev kit. It's a prototype. It's something that Meta have said that will be kind of available and in a couple of years' time. So it won't be tomorrow that you'll be using this in an enterprise environment. But the thing that's interesting is that it's starting the development community thinking about how to use AR, how to use hands-free as a USP for this type of technology, and how to integrate AI into the computer vision side of it. So really, it's about kind of stripping away the consumer side of it and looking at what are the technologies here that are being driven, what are the unique selling points of that technology, and how can they be used? Because often these product announcements are a bit of a flag for where things are going. I think you saw with I mentioned earlier about different wearables and how they often have a slow start, and it'll take a few years for people to adopt them. And this sort of technology may never be adopted by people in an everyday sense, but that doesn't mean that enterprise won't find amazing uses for them. So, for example, even if someone isn't going to wear it every day to pick up the kids and wearing smart glasses with cameras in, what enterprise could do is use that for remote experts, or it might be that they use it to augment a workplace environment with virtual screens, for example, or use the AI identification in that for sorting through parts. Or there's so many different applications that you could use with the technologies. It's not dependent on whether people are using it every day in their public lives.
I was going to talk a little bit about some of those enterprise use cases, and remote expert probably being one of the most obvious ones, certainly that we've worked with in certain projects. Do you feel that the advent, if you like, of AR glasses, as opposed to perhaps some of the wearable headsets that have previously had to be adopted for things like remote expert use cases, do you think they will overcome certain adoption barriers for clients?
I think so. I think in terms of form factor is definitely one. So it's something that's more comfortable to wear. People are happier to wear. I think in previous wearables, they've been quite bulky. It's very much like you're wearing a device. Whereas I think now that it'd be more likely that you're wearing something that feels like a pair of glasses. So you can see your eyes through it. You can talk to people that you're in person with, and it not be a barrier to that conversation. So I think that's going to be a big thing. So for example, if one of your jobs is to go and repair boilers and you have to go into people's homes, wearing those glasses that give you access to AI and a remote expert, for example, but they look like a normal pair of glasses. They're not going to be off-putting for your customers. It's going to give your workforce technological advantages and massive efficiencies to be able to share your view with someone quite efficiently and have AI augment that. It's going to be a massive benefit, but also it's just making sure that the commercial use case takes into account the human factor and the fact that you're going to be going either into people's homes or you're working with colleagues. It's that side of it, I think, that's interesting. The other aspect of it is these are integrated technologies. So we're not hacking things together. We're not bringing AI into a device or so on. It's the intention is for the device to encapsulate all of these technologies. So that's audio, visual, AI, and probably back-end functions as well. If they can all be packaged up right, then it suddenly becomes quite a compelling product for commercial use cases.
Good stuff. Are you personally really excited by this announcement, perhaps as compared to some of the others that we've had in recent years? Ed Ludlow, the Bloomberg tech reporter, described it as the most profound experience of a new technology he's had in his career so far. Would you align with that in terms of the level of importance, perhaps, of that moment?
So I think my view is, I'm a bit of a late comer to technologies where I like to see where they go first. And that is just from a production background. When you're a producer, you kind of need a tool to work. And so once I found a use case for it that I think is, really implementable and solid and secure, that's when I'm going to use it. And that might still be ahead of the curve, and it still be, a time when other people are not using those technologies. But for me, I think you can you can follow the trends and you can kind of chase those shadows quite a lot. For commercial use cases, I think what you need to be somewhere in that middle ground. You need to be aware of where the technology is going, start to think about your business use cases as a starting point. So this is a roadmap approach where, AR glasses are coming, wearables are coming. Where in our business would this be beneficial? Let's start thinking about it now. Let's start thinking about what the business case might be. Let's see where those efficiencies could be gained. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be buying 10,000 units of Meta's Orion glasses next week. I think it's a case of you might find that it spins off into other projects, or some of those use cases in AR might use other technologies that are more readily available now. So I think it's more about approach. It's more about strategy. It's less about following the big product announcements and thinking, is this specific project for me? It's more about, is this approach to technology, approach to using XR for business going to work for my commercial needs? And I think that's where I come from. So I'm excited that we're getting more tools. I'm really excited that we're getting more tools that are accessible, really well designed, really well thought out, and integrating all these brilliant advances that we're seeing. But there's another side of me that's cautious and thinking, well, some of the underlying technologies will be super useful in commercial use cases, but they might not be. I don't need to wait for Meta's Orion to be developed. These technologies already exist separately at the moment and can be developed into brilliant projects now.
And I suppose something that we often talk to our clients about is the fact that we shouldn't be kind of sat on our hands waiting to see these technologies mature to the point, to your point, that then we can start to apply them to enterprise need and challenge. For us, I think the message often is, let's, as industry and enterprise, let's start to push the envelope and pose the challenges to the developers of these types of technologies, because ultimately, otherwise, we're just sat there waiting to buy something off the shelf that's going to do something for us, and it's never going to really be as bespoke as we potentially need it to be. Yeah,
that's exactly it. I mean, there's always an overlap where, as a product matures, another product will come in. And so when I mentioned, I talk about it like chasing shadows, because as new technology comes in at the end of a life cycle of your previous project, you're not automatically going to switch your strategy and suddenly change all your procurement and change all your systems, and you'll end up never actually doing the thing that you intend. So what I tend to advise is that you pick a lane, pick an objective in terms of what you want to get out of technology with your business, and follow it through to its logical conclusion. So have an iterative approach to technologies. As new things come in, if they're better than what you're already using, then put that into your roadmap, build it in, but trying to find a kind of end goal that you're going to reach and everything's going to suddenly work and you never have to change it again. That's less likely. I think the speed of change with technology now is that you have to take an iterative roadmap approach where things are going to keep changing. Technology is going to keep improving, and it's going to happen quicker than you can probably procure it and integrate it into your teams and systems. So you kind of have to either do it in discrete projects as you're going, or you just have to accept that you're on a longer journey. And at the end of that journey, you'll have improved things and made brilliant efficiencies along the way, but it might not be in the form of one single product or system that you've designed to be absolutely perfect.
Good stuff. I'll throw this one at you. You don't know it's coming, by the way. So Meta have described Orion and this advent as, they've said, AR glasses are key to unlocking the next great leap in human-oriented computing. Mm-hmm. We spend a lot of our time, I think, it's fair to say, translating tech and XR speak for our clients to try and put it in more layman's terms and get them to understand what people at Meta are talking about. What's your interpretation of that next great leap in human-oriented computing and as to how it relates to the people that we work with day in, day out?
Yeah, so I mean, I liken it to the big previous moment with smartphones, and so once we had computers in our pockets, then we could pull them out and do access all sorts of knowledge, all sorts of features and abilities that we didn't have before, and it suddenly became in an accessible form factor that you could have on you on a daily basis. This is another kind of iteration of that, where I think for me, the unique thing is the hands-free aspect. It's suddenly, in industries where getting your phone out every 5 seconds is not practical or not useful, having the ability to, go about your role or your job, be on the move, have a wireless standalone system, even if it does have, kind of additional accessories with it, will give you opportunities to do new things. So whether that's, bringing technology to manual work where, you need someone's hands to be free, but you do want to give them a technological advantage, that's where I think it's in terms of that human-centered computing, where we're going to see improvements. So I think there's probably other wearables and things that are going to come along as a result of this, and that will accessorize it. I think that, I was thinking the other day about what we did before smartphones, and honestly, I was at a loss to work out what we used to do with our hands before smartphones, because you're getting your phone out every kind of few minutes now to check an email, or to take a video, or listen to music, or do some heavy processing in AI, and the technology is just ramped up very, very quickly. So I think for me, it's the hardware is one thing. I think the software side is the more exciting part of the human centered design that's coming on. So AI is the big one. I think it's too big a category to ignore. But I think visualizing that, how we do the design and user interaction design piece, will be crucial. So people like to use things that feel comfortable to use. They like things that are easy to use, and translating it visually and using kind of new ways of looking at UX and user interface design are going to be the crucial step to whether people adopt this. And integration as well. Integration into systems and processes that you've got. So there's still a lot of work to be done, because these things just don't exist in a bubble. And it's brilliant. You can have a brilliant piece of technology, but it's got to fit with everything else you're doing outside of that bubble.
Good stuff, Ian. Listen, that's been amazing. I think we'll probably wrap it there, because these freshly squeezed episodes we want to keep to sort of nice consumable chunks of time for people. And I think it's always just an initial toe dip into the latest trend or news story that we pick. So thank you very much for today. That's been brilliant. And let's get together soon for another chat over something else. And that's been freshly squeezed. Thanks, Ian. See you next time.
Good stuff. Looking forward to it. See you now.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.